This is from Introduction to the New Testament by Douglas and Moo. If you want to read this in more detail. So we have Peter's sermon in Acts chapter 10 verse 34 to 43, and as we compare Peter's sermon with the Gospel of Mark, we find a correlation, and so we can see that Mark is based on eyewitness accounts if it's based on Peter's sermon. Okay? So in Mark, we read Mark chapter 1 verse 1, the beginning of the good news about Jesus Christ. The comparison to that is in Acts 10:36, we read, telling the good news of peace through Jesus Christ. In Mark chapter 1 verse 10, we read, Jesus saw the Spirit descending on him. In Acts chapter 10:38, we read, God anointed Jesus of Nazareth with the Holy Spirit. In Mark chapter 1:16 and 8:26, we find the Galilean ministry. Sorry about this. I'm just looking for the. Sorry about this. My comparison. Yeah, it has to be. Sorry about this. Yeah, in Mark chapter 1:16 to 8:20, we have the Galilean ministry, and Jesus' ministry focuses on healings and exorcism. Jesus healed many who had various diseases. He also drove out many demons. Mark chapter 1:34. When compared to the book of Acts, we have beginning in Galilee, so it matches up. And we also have in verse 38 in Acts chapter 10, he went around doing good and healing all who were under the power of the devil. Okay. We have in Mark chapter 11, Jesus entered Jerusalem. Mark 11 verse 11. See chapter 11 to 14. We see a comparison in Acts chapter 10 verse 39. We are witnesses of everything he did in Jerusalem. In Mark chapter 15:24, we have Jesus crucified, and they crucified him. In Acts chapter 10 verse 39, they killed him by hanging him on a cross. In Mark 16:6, Mark, he is risen, he is not here. In Acts chapter 10 verse 40, God raised him from the dead on the third day. In Mark chapter 16 verse 7, tell his disciples and Peter you will see him. And Acts chapter 10 verse 41, he was seen by witnesses. The narrative style or flow of the Gospel of Mark and Peter's speech in Acts in chapter 10 verse 36-42 match up well. So, sorry about this. So, we've established the early historical source material of the Gospels. We've established the historical reliability, and we've established that it's based on eyewitness accounts through Barcombe and a study of the Acts passage, comparing it with the Mark passage. Now we're going to look at objections to the resurrection of Christ. And in Mark chapter 14 verse 66 and 72, as we know that the gospel is based on Peter's testimony, why would Mark put in Peter's denial of Jesus if it did not happen? Also, why would Peter be a coward at the time of Jesus' death and be bold preaching in Jerusalem 40 days later? What changed him from coward to Mr. Courageous? The account of Jesus' death has a ring of historical truth around it. In Mark chapter 16 verse 9, Mary Magdalene, a woman of ill repute, is the first to bear witness to Jesus. Why make a woman the first witness when a woman's testimony was not respected in the ancient world? In Mark 16:11,